Hello and welcome back to the Iron Gusman YouTube channel. Today we have a list review show for a tournament that's taking place in Queensland, which is a fundraiser for Team Australia, which is going to answer them in June. I'm joined by one of the coaches from our team, Nick. Hello.
Hello,
What
everyone.
what
Who?
country are you in today, out of curiosity?
I'm on a bit of a whirlwind tour at the moment. We've just come through Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, and now we're in Georgia, which is good fun. It's a beautiful place. Just waiting for the weather to warm up a bit so I can go see some mountains.
Yeah, cool, cool. So today we're gonna go through pretty much all the lists. We'll start by going through the pack a little bit. But first, Nick, do you just want to talk about what this event is and why we are doing it?
Yeah, for sure. For those of you who don't believe the Earth is flat and understand geography, Australia's pretty far away from, well, the rest of the world, actually, really, and especially where they hold the World's Tournament. So it's pretty expensive for us to kind of get over there. And so what we thought we'd do this year is connect with a bunch of local companies and clubs to try and corral some support to try and help fund the boys' trip to get us over there, and we've had a fair bit of success. We've had some amazing companies jump on board to really help us out. And you can see their names dotted around the screen here. I've got to shout out a few specifically. The Northern Alliance is a club based in Queensland. They're a not-for-profit, and they've really been the driving force behind helping get a lot of this tied together. So we would not be anywhere without those boys and girls. So thank you very much for them. And they're hosting the event with one of the guys on our team. Young Mathhammer. So that's pretty awesome. And then we've got another awesome business on the north side, Wargamers Hub. So John Canisi and the crew there, they're one of our major sponsors, and they're actually sponsoring the event as well with some pretty awesome prize packs. I think there's over $750 worth of prizes that are lucky door prizes just for the event alone, which is pretty awesome. Pretty great prize pool for what's essentially a fundraising event, right? So all the tickets costed, or the ticket costs, I should say, go towards directly towards the team, which is rad. And then lastly, the guys at Emperor as well. So brother Jacob, if anyone's ever thrown their support email a line, they're also one of our major sponsors as well. So obviously you can see Gap Games is there as well, and Baron of Dice. They're helping the Team Australia dice creation, and Gap's a big sponsor there as well. And we're actually going to be having a big raffle in the weeks to come. And look out for some more details there because it's looking pretty spicy. There's over $4,500 worth of vouchers for these stores and AOS boxes of goodies that you can hopefully win. So even if you're not an AOS person, if you no matter what system you're in, very cross system fluent, these vouchers can be used at any of these stores. So keep your eyes peeled for that. More to come.
Yeah, awesome. I remember when we were talking about like why we want to do this kind of like fundraising thing because in the past we just very much paid our own way. I think there's kind of two ingredients to making a good Warhammer player, and one of them is time, and the other one is money. And we'd
Yep.
love to help people out with time, but that's a bit of an esoteric concept, or maybe involves us like taking care of their kids while they're in Europe or something. But, yeah, so we're trying to help out at least one component in that, just to make it easier
Yeah.
for people to go to Worlds, and we'd hope that like going forward in future iterations of Team Australia that people kind of follow a similar approach of trying to make it so that we don't all leave the World event broke. It's a very
Yeah.
important thing. Yeah,
It's a more accessible is better. Hey.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so it is a four-person team format. This event. I think it's cool. First of all, that we're doing a teams event to raise money for a teams event. Makes a lot of sense, right? And
Real matter.
um, yeah, let's quickly go through. We're going to start with the pairings because this is slightly different. So normally in a four-person team, I guess the normal thing is kind of similar to the Worlds one, where you do the classic thing where you both put a defender down, face down, and then you flip it over and you attack both. But it always ends up just being very kind of, I think, predictable in a sense, and also what would the other word be? I don't know. There's a lot of
Boring.
boring. There's
To be
not a
honest, like
lot
it
of
can get a
like
bit
thought.
like
I think and a lot of people want to play 8-man because they've done 4-man and they have a bit of frustration with the pairings process. There's a bit of luck involved as well in there.
yeah. There's
There's
not as
some
much nuance. Maybe is a good way of putting it.
yeah
It's hard to kind of like. There's no movement. It's kind of like you play your hand, and then the next two turns of the pairings process are not automatically decided, but there's not much leverage after that, right?
yeah yeah. So there's some alterations that have been made to the pack here to make it a little more dynamic, a little more nuanced, a bit more to think about. So to run through it, basically, you roll off at the start of the pairings, and there is a winner and loser of the roll off. Now, both teams pick a champion, which I think is maybe we're one GHP late there, but anyway, that was the best GHP.
Yeah.
But we pick a champion, and then you set it aside, and they're basically like, they're destined duelists to play in on the last map, okay? And then the person who lost the roll off places a defender, and then the other team replies with an attacker, and then the defender picks the battle plan. And then the person who won the roll-off picks a defender, and the other team replies with an attacker, and then they play, and the defender picks a battle plan, so those are the same. And then, the last step is the champions play. So the bit that's, I guess, most dynamic about it is maybe the picking the battle plan part, right? Normally when you play 4-man teams, it's either like all 4 of you play the same battle plan. There's a lot of packs that do that, or the first two maps are set as this battle plan, and the next 2 maps are set as this battle plan, which is kind of like the world's version. This is like there's 2 maps, and you get some choice in the pairings of what games are going to play on those maps. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's when we were kind of looking at this was actually it's not a I will say this, it's not a brand new format that's been created just for this event or anything. We actually kind of spread our wings a little bit further afield and chatted to some different systems and how they play teams events, because it's not just a Sigma thing, obviously, or a 40K thing. And this is adapted from an older 40K format that they've used in the past. And it kind of eased a few of the frustrations that I know I had with 4-man's pairings, which is fun, obviously. Not that boring. I was probably being a bit dramatic before. But I think this has a lot more nuance, has a lot more agency as well. So obviously one of the bigger changes is the person who puts the attacker forward, they have complete knowledge of the army and they can kind of dictate the pairing. But I think in this in this GHB, there's a few maps that really can help skew a matchup and help kind of blunt a victory and things like that, or maybe cap the viability of some lists' ability to score or interact. There's a few really obvious examples like, Nexus Collapse, Icefield, Frigid Zephyr. These kind of things that have some fairly extreme rules can actually kind of help balance out a bad pairing in some way. So I do think that this process can really help some teams if they're quite savvy, maybe turn what could be a pretty dire situation into maybe something more middling or a green. Who knows?
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess will be an example of this. Like, I mean, I know Null Myriad just got nerfed, but like, let's say you put like Seraphon face up, and then your opponent attacks it with Null Myriad. Let's pretend that it didn't just get nerfed. Then maybe.
Well, I'm still pretty good.
Yeah, 4 is still pretty good, right? But then the Seraphon player could pick a battle plan that advantages the Seraphon, and it's not such bad of a matchup, right? So the defender getting to pick the battle plan kind of mitigates the fact that they're more than likely to get a bad matchup. Now, there will be some times where, like, you look at an army that you have in your team, right? And you're like, this army can beat everyone on my opponent's team. Or maybe this player can beat everyone on my opponent's team. And you might just put them first because you get to pick the battle plan. You don't care who you play, right? So you can put the Giga Chad army there if you want. The champion is interesting because there's kind of a similar thing where when you're deciding what the champion is, it is kind of an army that probably needs to be able to play against all four of the opponent's armies, right? Especially since you probably don't get to pick the battle plan.
Yeah.
That one, that's really hard to decide, right? Like, which is, you can either go for like a total skew list as your champion and just kind of like structure your whole pairings around it, or you just go like, all right, here's my like, I don't know, 200 zombies, and it should be fine, no matter what it is, something like that.
Time me out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the champion is a really fun element because it's like you said, it's this just that extra element of randomness that I think if you've got like depending on how you want to rock it, you can really throw some pairing processes off. And like you said, because there's a good chance that then depending on which way you look at it, they might not have as much knowledge of where they're going to be playing. I think you're right. I think you'll rather see players who are titanically confident in that role, or you'll see lists that are just like the traditional 5-score, I don't have to touch you, big war style lists, right? That'll probably sit in that role. Or you'll just have some random skeg list that just gets punted under the bus to try and get the other 3 good matchups kind of thing. So I think it'll be really funny seeing some stories that come out after the weekend of how people decided to use that champion role.
I think there's going to be a lot of like brass knuckles destruction players who's going to be like, I want to be the champion. I'll fight anyone. There's going to be a lot of that going on. Okay, so the maps.
I think at the event, yeah.
The maps are kind of, I'll just zoom in a bit because it's a bit small, but basically the maps are kind of structured so that they're quite different. So round 1 it's no reward without risk and Founders of Frost. So Founders of Frost, it's very much just stand there and jerk off, and then maybe you score like 1 point here or there for a 1-2 more, and that wins you the game.
Yep.
I don't like that mission, but it does exist. And then no reward without risk is it very much can reward armies that like to full send because you can just deploy in your opponent's face, right? So those are massively different. Every step is forward, next is collapse. Every step is forward is pretty neutrally sort of battle plan, I think.
Yeah.
And then Nexus Collapse is interesting because it's hard to win by a lot. So you can get good matchups here, but maybe it's not going to necessarily swing you the round.
It might help blunt it, if anything. I think is maybe where Nexus Collapse will come in. Like there's going to be some armies who can still play a defensive game and, score well. And try and maybe flip a red to a yellow kind of thing, but that's about it.
And every step forward is pretty neutral, and it's quite easy to score 2 points. So like 2 objectives, even if you're not getting more. So I expect probably that round you'd see a lot of like pretty close matchups there. Round 3, limited resources and geomantic pulse. I think pulse I've grown to realize is a little bit more neutral than I thought it was. I kind of, when we first started playing the GSP, I kind of thought it was one of those like fight in the middle sort of missions, but because there is enough width to it that it is like you can play down the sides. And then limited resources as well. Often with this mission, it's weird because often the terrain determines whether it is a mission where a KO kind of army is good, or actually melee armies can be really good on this mission if there's no giant tower in the middle. Because there's like a spot you can stand in the middle, right, where you can access all the objectives. But if there's something there and you can't do it, then it's horrible for melee armies. So yeah, it's those two are interesting. I think the terrain and what armies are playing is going to have a big impact on those maps. And then I think this, for me, the round 4 is the spicy round, which is Spring the Trap and Power Flux. That's mega hard to work out that one.
Yeah, it's a dog round.
Really hard.
I was keen to have that as the 5th round, but the boys were like, no, that's a bit of a tough one.
That's really hard because Power Flux, you got to think about the whole, okay, can my army kill wizards, or does it have a lot of wizards that can stand on objectives? that are survivable, and then Spring the Trap. My experience with this mission is if it's a really bad matchup and you play Spring the Trap, it's like horrible. Like
Yep.
it can be really really bad in a bad matchup. So yeah, that's one for there. And then round 5 is Frigid Zephyr and Lines of Communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Frigid Zephyr is obviously a bad mission for shooting armies, but there is.
Mm-hmm.
So this happened to me yesterday. Okay, it is a bad mission for shooting armies, but if it goes down turn 2, if the score goes down turn 2 on that 5-up, it's no longer a bad mission for shooting armies. It's now a great mission for shooting armies. So
it's a shooting gallery.
So yeah, because often what happens, right, is turn 1 you like set up assuming that your opponent can't shoot you, and then if they roll out, if you get their 5-up and the score goes down, then you just like you've been fully pantsed by the mission, right? And you paired into it under the assumption that they can't shoot. So yeah, obviously bad for shooting armies, but does depend on the role. And then Lines of Communication, pretty like brawl in the middle, sort of like good for Gargans kind of mission, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's actually a few, as you were kind of articulating before, around the back and forth in the process. Hopefully, people have seen this process, and then now they can see the maps and the some of the give and take that each map will allow the captain to play with. I think that we'll see a few rounds where people will actually really want to lose that roll off. I think it will actually be really maybe more important. It won't be in some rounds. I think in some rounds it'll be great to win and be able to really dictate that matchup from the start. But there will be whole rounds where you'll be praying to the dice gods that you'll be picking up your morale dice to roll or bravery, I should say. Sorry, to roll like a 1. So I to lose that puppy, I think they'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of the sum of it is like, if you want to be an attacker, you basically have to be an army that can play a bunch of missions well. And if you want to be a defender, then you probably can be an army that can just be really strong at a certain battle plan, but be able to play a variety of matchups. So that's kind of like the dynamic going on here. Yeah. Cool. So those are the maps and pairings. Yeah, it's 20-0 system. I think we're all familiar with that. And usual teams list building, so you can't bring duplicate artifacts, spells, other enhancement, etc. Yeah,
pretty standard.
Okay, so I think we could move on to the army breakdown. Okay, so
yeah, some interesting stuff here.
So how many teams do we have? Is it 8? Is that what it is? I think it's 8, right?
No,
No, it's more than that.
It should be
16.
17.
17? Okay.
Yes, I think there's 17. We had 18, but unfortunately we had one little cheeky drop. So at the moment it's 17.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting then. Yeah, so I mean this is probably like less of a set meta than I thought it would be, perhaps. Might just need to double check the numbers on this graph. Okay. Yeah, I might just need to double check that. Alright. But it's looking like Khorne Ogres and surprisingly Nighthaunt is are some of the top armies here.
Yeah.
I think Khorne we'd expect, but Ogres. Okay, we're in Australia, we're in Queensland, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's how we roll, right? It's that's what we are, right?
Absolutely.
And then Nighthaunt. I've been playing Nighthaunt for like the past 2 weeks. I'd say it's like a destruction army that is like, yeah, it's Dead Ghost, but it's still a destruction army. Like it feels like you're playing a destruction army. Live and die by the fire of that army.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Pretty destruction heavy meta up here. I'll be honest though, there's a few things that really shock me here. There's usually a ton of KO players that kind of crawl out of the woodwork at any point. So maybe and I'm very surprised to not see a few of those locals. I know they're playing, but they're clearly not playing KO. Maybe that last war scroll, a battle scroll, I should say, really helped them pivot off. So that was in a special shock. And we also have a huge. How many Soul Blight players have we got? Do you know off the top of your head? We'll have a look in a second. We see the list. But
Yeah, 5, I think.
from memory, when I had a look at it, there wasn't nearly as many as a traditional. There's a lot of Soul Blight players in Queensland and in Australia. I think we have quite a few. So yeah, there was some interesting ones. Corn's very heavy. I think there's 7 Corn lists.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I will say, like, with the recent battle scroll with KO and Soul Blight especially, like, Soul Blight did get some points reductions, but KO definitely, like, normally when they nerf an army, they give you some nice little Hopian buffs in there, like, okay, maybe like Sky Wardens went down 10 points or something, like a unit that you don't really take that much goes down a little bit, and that's just like a bit of a psychological placebo effect to keep you playing the army. But this time they were like, the Ironclad went down 20, which you'd only take 1 of anyway, and the army that you take it in, everything else went up. So it's just, I think it's just a bit of a feels bad. Like, I had my mate Will from Model Citizens messaging me saying like, what the hell, my melee KO army just went up like 150 points. I'm just like, yeah, sorry, bro.
Dude, poor guy's already trying to make melee KO really win, and he's just been pissed. He's pissing in the fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and Soul Blight, I think they did get some points reductions on, like, I think Blood Knights and some other kind of off-meta stuff. But they've just had, like, the most nerfs of, I think, any army in Warhammer existence, in Age of Sigmar existence, maybe, this army. They've had so many nerfs. Bone Reapers too. Both those armies just... And Seraphon too, those 3 next to each other is interesting. They just... The 3 probably most problematic armies of last year. And Gits. But, yeah. Maybe I'm a little bit surprised by only 3 Gits, maybe. This is Australia. It should be like 12 Gits. Like, should be 60% of the teams should have Gits, right? But I don't know. Again, they get nerfed over and over again. Like 10 points here and there every battle scroll. It doesn't feel so great. So I get the people don't want to play it. Yeah.
I'm sad there's not more Spiderfang representation. That's what I was really hoping for. Is some really dank Spiderfang list.
They got the placebo buffs, right? Because they nerfed the Boingrots, and they're like, the Arachnarok went down 10 points. It's like, that fixes everything.
If you weren't taking it before, you're definitely taking it now, because I know that's what was stopping me. Oh, if only it was 170.
Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, these rules writers.
Cool. So, I guess let's get into the list. I'll just make sure they're as readable as I can make them. If you're on the toilet reading this, I suggest maybe it will be difficult to see it visually.
Bring your computer in and keep going. Show dominance.
Now, just to shout out some people in my previous video, before you write a comment that says, "Can you make it full screen?" Can you make it full screen? Okay, just I want to make sure, if it's not full screen on your device and you're telling me to make it full screen, there's something a little bit wrong there. So first of all, can we just make sure that you're full screen, and then I'll listen to the comment. All right, cool. Okay, so first we have Anti-Sigmar Club.
Yep.
Now I don't know these guys, but are these Age of Sigmar native guys or?
Yeah, I know this crew. So, I'll tell you one thing. Jai's nickname in the community in Queensland is the Giant King. So he was a big-time Necron player in 40k for a long time. So I think these guys do flirt intra-system, which is good fun. But I know they're a regular at every team's event. Like, they're at every Runax. Like, so they're very much supportive of the AOS as a system. And I know a few of them do play it as their main system, but there's definitely a few cross-pollinated players, I will say that, in this group.
So, kind of an interesting team comp, I'd say. So there's like a Blade Geist Nighthaunt list. Yeah, with a lot of Blade Geists and supportive pieces.
Yeah.
There's not too much to say about this. I mean, basically, like, the weakness is I mean, whenever you play a Nighthawk list like this that doesn't have like too many wounds, it's just a load of mortal wounds. But because the recursion is questionable, as with Nighthawk, the recursion basically, you'd think that Nighthawk get a lot of recursion, but basically it's like the Spirit Torment, and then if you get the Guardian of Soul spell off, which you probably won't, and then Olander once per game, D6, D6. So it's not very much. And then Rally. So it's an army that can fall over pretty quick. Yep. But the as I was saying, it's kind of a little bit of a distraction army, because if those Blade Guys get in on the right turn, and you make the right charges, then they just murder things unquestionably. They just it's just dead. And same with the Harrodans.
And particularly brutal on a double.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
retreat and charges just so crippling.
So you look at this into something like Seraphon as well, and those Banshees do help a lot in that particular matchup. They're quite difficult for the Seraphon player to deal with. Basically, you need to do the kaboom, cleanse the relics to get rid of the Banshees, because you can't be throwing spells into their aura, because it could get unbound, and if it gets unbound, you lose your summoning points. So it's a bit interesting in that matchup. But that's Nighthawk. Then we have Ogres with we might need to check the grand
Underguts, baby.
We might need to check the grand strat, because it says spellcasting savant, but he doesn't have
he's got a butcher,
but he has to be the general, right? Might just
he's chucked that in there.
Might just need to just follow up on that. But yeah,
I'll be honest, what I'm loving about this list is Seth is just living in, was it 2021? When was the rise of Underguts? Was that 2021?
It was like 2 months. It's the shortest high ever. I remember it was the end of 2021. It was before CanCon, and everyone was like, are they gonna get nerfed? Are they gonna make it to CanCon? And then they just got like Omega nerfed, and the book was just very sad. So I think it's better now. Like they kind of reduced the points on the battle line now, where you can fit in what you used to fit in post the first set of nerfs, I think. So I think they got nerfed twice by memory. So now, because the Noblars went up as well. I still find Noblars like one of the most frustrating units in the game to play against. They're so horrible. They're so good for 120.
They're a tight little unit. I think this is the Mournfang drops were pretty interesting. That's like really enabled, like you said, otherwise the other cheapest battle line you really could run was Yetis if you're into that sort of, thing, I guess. If you really want to if you want a Thunder Tusk and you want to make it a general, you could bring some Yetis, a cheap battle line, but outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot cheap for Ogres. So, I think that Mournfang dropping to 150, I will still go on record to say that I think Mournfang are one of my least favourite units of the game, and I had to do a shoey at the last event I commentated on as a result of those pricks. But it was like one Mournfang against like a Varangard or something, and I said, "There's no way this Mournfang's going to do anything to this Varangard," and it like took like 1 or 2 out or something, and I said I'd do a shoey if it did, and it somehow did. So there I was drinking shoes out of like 4-year-old Blundstones. Drinking beers out of 4-year-old Blundstones. It was beautiful, actually. Really great tang.
But they're definitely way better than like. I find Lead Belchers to be one of the most like depressing war scrolls. It's just so bad. It got nerfed as well, kind of between the books. So anyway, so they're much better than that. The kind of copy pasta has 4 Iron Blasters, but he's put 4 Iron Guts in here, just to provide a bit more of a melee threat in the midboard. I like it.
Little counterpunch. With their fight twice, they can really, really, really do some damage too. So huge fan.
I still have only played 1 game with Iron Guts in the new book ever, despite my name being Iron Guts Man. But maybe that will change at some point, and we'll get them out.
When Man Eaters get Gutbuster, we're riding, Stu. We are riding into the sun.
Then we have a Holomorn list with Feck that has big U Sharan with Gormain. And then your normal Archregent, Gore Warden, and Vargulf that everyone seems to be running these days. And then 2 6s of Morbeg Knights, 20 Crypt Ghouls, 10 Crypt Guard, and the Barricade. It has a lot of heroes, this list, which I think is actually fine. Now that I've seen Feck played a bunch of times, once you lose your heroes, the game is over. So having more of them is probably good.
Yeah.
My only issue with Feck tends to be that often the core tier units can stand around doing nothing because it's very easy to one-shot. Like 6 Morbeg Knights is 18 wounds, right? So the Vargulf hits in combat, at least. So he can do a bit more. But often like the 100-point foot lads you run just don't end up doing that much because your units usually just full die. So normally you see more of the Archregent and various abhorrents because bringing back a dead unit is better overall. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty light list on screens too, to be honest with you. Like it's not, I don't know how it's copping it. If it cops a double, it's going to be, I think pretty hard to potentially recover from. So it's pretty bit of a glass hammer list. Stephen also is noted to often be best dressed on show. Like that man has a wardrobe bigger than my house. I think he has that much like cosplay and stuff he dresses up as. It's always fantastic. So I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of undead death Feck dress up that he's going to be wearing alongside this. So he'll be an absolute feast on the eyes.
Nice. I'd say like this would be a good one. That's kind of like an attacker with like the opportunity to like 1-2 bang an army off because you can like teleport the Morbeg Knights and the Gore Wardens in their face, cheat like a really easy charge, and if you get the double, maybe you can take enough stuff off. Then we have the first of many corn lists. So generally, as we'll go, if we've already talked about the archetype, we'll probably kind of just like skip over it a bit. So we'll spend a bit of time on this one, but probably there's going to be many of the same lists. We'll kind of shorten it when we get there. But basically, Spawn Corn is dead. The oppression is over, and we're back to playing normal, honest corn, which is not very honest, but it's more honest.
Yeah. Most dishonest time in the whole thing, but yeah, whatever.
More honest. So, it's back to, the Unfettered Fury guy, and the Skull Reefers, and, the Blood Warriors. I like to play it a lot, and I'm actually quite a fan of this list. I often ran one unit of 20 Blood Warriors, but after I played them for a while, I do think that the 2 10s is better. 20 just has the problem of being bogged down and not kind of covering enough board space. And it's a bit antithetical to like Blood Tithe, right? Like you want units to like fight other units so that either die or win. So if you just have a 20 block that just regenerates, it's not so good. But Flayed is great because if you fight in multiple spots, then your opponent kind of gets punished for the unit they don't hit. So if they don't have like any activation shenanigans and they're trying to charge both units of Blood Warriors, you'll know that one of them will get a 5-up ward. So it can be quite good for guaranteeing keeping at least one of them alive. And the Skull Reapers too. Their problem is they do like exactly the right amount of damage to not kill anything. There's this damage threshold, which is like 16 wounds with a 3-up save and a 5-up ward. And it's like a critical threshold that so many units don't cross, and this is one of them. And it's like, okay, I know I'm not going to kill the thing. I'm going to do like 10 damage to that thing, and then I'm going to get hit. And the Flayed just makes it so that when they take the hit back, they just don't get hit as hard. So I quite like the Flayed for that.
Right.
Because they don't usually one-shot anything. So, handy, I think. It's a good list. I like this one a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I like it a lot.
Okay. Dads and Daddy's Hammer. Another Blade Guys Revenant spam list. Run by Jack Solomons. I think this is quite similar. It just has fewer heroes. It's got 2 Guardian of Souls and no Spirit Torment. So the regeneration in this list is fairly non-existent. You have to get the spell off basically. Um,
Yeah.
but it does have the whole like autocast Purple Sun thing with Midnight Tome,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can like do magical
Mm-hmm.
dominance, and then autocast Purple Sun doesn't hit you because you're ethereal, but it affects everything else with -1 save. Only thing I would say,
Yep.
having played this a few times, is usually just kill everything anyway on your turn. Your turn is not the problem when you're playing
Yeah.
Nighthawk. It is your opponent's turn.
Mm.
What am I going to do on my opponent's turn to survive a hit, right? Yeah. But that's it.
I haven't played against Jack. He's a bit of a cheeky unit. I wish I had, but I don't know. I wonder if it's quite a defensive list, eh? I feel like he's kind of really built it as a bit of a tactics farm. Like he's got a lot of MSU, some speed in there. Don't know. I'm just curious to see. I would like to be a fly on the wall watching a couple of his games, and I'm keen to see where they kind of um, put him in the team dynamic. So Nighthawk's obviously not known for tactic farming, so it could be a little bit of a cheeky skew. I don't know, but it's an interesting list.
Yeah, it's I think the 2/4s of Banshees make it really good against magic armies. Well, maybe that's a bit of a stretch. Playable against magic armies.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you run Nighthawk without Banshees, it's like you're just dead instantly versus magic armies. So
Yeah.
if you have Banshees, then you get to live for a bit. I mean, it makes it
Yeah.
playable, right? Yeah, but
Yeah.
the recursion's an issue. Okay, Trugs.
Here we go. Here we go.
We have the full Trug list with Trug,
Yeah.
a Trog boss. Now this configuration has changed many times over the years, but I haven't seen many people run this recently, which is a big unit of 3 dank old Trogos. Trogos.
Triple.
The triple. Yeah. Now, do not fail bravery on that unit because that is like the most depressing thing ever. But as a destruction player, you live between the two possibilities, which is heaven and hell, which is
Yeah.
rolling a 6 on the rally and getting 1 back, and hell, which is rolling a 6 on the battle shock and losing 1. All right, so those 2 things exist.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you're gonna get, but it depends when you roll the 6, right?
Man, that guy, honestly, he needs a wheelbarrow for his balls. What an absolute king. Triple Dankhold Trogoth. That's just, it's huge, eh? I hope he just gets put into KO and stuff all day and just like rolls the perfect like Trug anti-shooting. I just hope he just gets to swan around with his nuts out. What a king. I love this list, eh? What a skew. Good on you, mate.
It's yeah. So obviously Trug has that ability to make it so only 6s to hit you from shooting. So, quite good against, I guess, shooting armies. Well, the only thing I would say is the tactics in this army are so bad. Like, is it
She's
good
not
against
mobile.
KO? Is it good against KO? If your whole arm,
Yeah.
like if he rolls a bunch of wands on the navigator and you're stuck there, and there's only
Yeah.
1 KO anyway, so it's a bit of a moot point. But yeah,
True.
yeah, yeah.
And no cities? Did I see that? None?
Yeah, I don't think there's any. There's not a lot of shooting, right?
Crazy
There's
count.
really not. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, probably some of these Stormcast lists do, but other than that, there's basically no shooting. There's like Seraphon
Yeah.
is the range damage.
Huge.
It's all like melee brawl. So actually, this is probably, it's actually pretty decent in this tournament, I think.
Yeah.
If it's all just fight in the middle, right?
Yeah, he's done well. He's read the meta well. Josh knows his stuff. Good on you, mate. Overshadow. I'm going to be honest. My only negative, I just don't like Overshadow.
Oh,
I think
it's grim, isn't it? Yeah, I think probably
Yeah,
since
she's a
given it
tough
doesn't
person.
have a wizard anyway, maybe this should be Slaughter of Sorcery, right? But I guess you can only take
Yeah.
one of them, right? So probably
Yeah, I think the corn
the
list took
corn.
it. Yeah, he
yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh
so
well,
corn list.
back into a corner.
Corn list looks pretty similar to the other one. I think the change here is so it's Reapers, and it has Scarbrand, and it has a unit of 6 Mighty Skull Crushers instead of kind of like the Blood Warriors kind of filled the same role over there. So the other list had the Skull Reapers as the hammer and the Blood Warriors as the anvil, and here we kind of have Skull Crushers and Scarbrand kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty traditional Reapers list, really. Like sometimes you see a little bit more Bloodletters, maybe in a reinforced block if you're going to go the fight first Bloodmaster. But apart from that, Surprised to have seen no Furies in any of the corn lists so far. That's interesting. There's only been two, but it's an interesting point. I feel like they're quite a common ally to help with that early tactic, but it's pretty traditional Reapers list.
Yeah, so in the pairings, I could see that being an issue if you end up on a mission where you have to go first, right? And you have
Yep.
to do surround. It could be a problem. You need to
Yep.
basically get a prayer off.
Yep.
There's a slight miss here that needs to be looked at because Scar can't take a null stone. But anyway, someone will look at that later.
Yeah, we can check that out.
Okay, and then the first of the OBR list. So we have Catacross and the Os Effector guy. Who's there to buff the Archive and have that +1 to wound artifact there. And then 3 units of Death Riders, 2 Immortus Guard, and the Archive. So I believe, and Vok Motion. I believe the similar list that you used to take back in the day, you could fit, I believe you could fit 2 units of Death Riders, 4 Immortus, and 4 Archive. So I think with the points changes, one of those units has been dropped down to 5 Death Riders, which is really not the end of the world.
I must admit though, doesn't it look light, eh?
Yeah, it does. But there's just missions where this is still horrible to play against, right? Like, no reward without risk. This army is just golden on that mission because it's like it is a little bit slow. So just being able to sit in your opponent's face at the start of the game is great. But yeah, what's significant about OBR, right, is its best matchup, which is Seraphon, is now its worst matchup if you don't take Null Myriad, right? Because this army is actually like pretty terrible against Magic. Because it's very easy to kill this Os Effector guy. And if you put him in range of the Immortus Guard, then the Immortus Guard will die from him passing off. Because it's compulsory. So yeah, they're very weak against Magic now with Mortis Praetorians, but I think now you tilt it more to like the anti-melee, anti-Khorne. Like it's quite good against Khorne, right? Kind of just like Centurion, sit in the middle sort of army. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a ton to say about it. I think, like, honestly, I still struggle with. I'm not a huge fan of how they've kind of played with OBR so hard. Like, I think it's really been quite a tough. Like, if you're an OBR player and that's like your army, I think you probably had one of the rougher runs. Like, the level of the highs and the low of the lows has been pretty broad spectrum. So I'm keen to see how this kind of list performs. I do think it's got maybe they've skewed it in a way that just allows them to maybe that could be an interesting champion. I'd be interested to see, but I don't know how Kyle. I've never met Kyle, but I'll be keen to see how he runs it.
Then we have the Bathtub Barracudas. Solid name. That might be my name award at the end. We'll see. That's solid. We have Ogres with more Iron Blasters, but this time we have a spicy Fire Belly with a -1 to hit aura spell.
Yes.
And a personal favorite for me. And we have and then I think other than that, the difference is that this one has Iron Guts as battle line, and no unit of Noblars as the screen. So for me, I would be worried about not having a screen. But yeah, maybe more of like a 1-2 bang sort of list than a defensive play for in the back sort of list. I will say about Ogres, the tactics are pretty good now. It's an army that's pretty good at tactics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting he's got a couple of interesting things here, like the grand strat, how deep he's gone on the points. Like 1940 that's a bold claim. That's a big it's a big triumph bid for Ogres, to be honest. Don't see that so often. And yeah, hold the line. Jeez, you don't see that very often as a grand strategy punt, do you?
What is that?
I literally don't know. I'm looking at it now because I haven't seen it in so long.
Isn't that the... Okay, I might be wrong, but in my head that's a previous GHB, which is... I thought it
that's
was
why I'm struggling.
Have Battle Line alive or something at the end of the game, wasn't it? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that's snuck in. Old mate's just copy pasted one of his old lists. He's been called up from the deep. I respect that energy. Don't even edit it. Just chuck her in. These boys are going to have a few list adjustments to chase up, I reckon. How funny.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Let's play a quick GHP bingo here. Let's hope we can see a tunnel master in these lists. That might be the secret sauce. I'm hoping to see.
Yeah, yeah.
How
Okay.
good.
Then we have Ben. I want to say, is it Ruffin or
Ruffin, yeah,
Ruffin? Okay.
it is
Um,
Ruffin.
with Dom Hayne IDK. He's
Yep,
he's riding that Thralls Hopium all the way to the bank with a big block
live
of
for it,
30
man.
Thralls and a Leviathan.
Yep,
Smash King.
yep.
And yeah, so it's in the Thrall sub faction. Um,
Hmm.
and he has the support pieces to do that. So +1 wound from Lotan, the exploding sixes for Thrall Master, then the regeneration from the Soul Render, the strike first from the Achelian King. Yeah. So
Yeah,
what I found with this list is that 30 wounds is not very much. So it cannot take a hit very well, but they do a lot of damage. So I think this
yeah,
kind of has a lot of similarities with Nighthaunt in my experience with the army. It plays quite similarly. Like amazing on your turn because you
yeah,
can get the strikes first and stuff, but on your opponent's turn can really take a rough hit sometimes.
yeah. I think maybe just I don't know. I guess the 4-up is I don't know. I hate rolling 4-up saves, so I would prefer a 5-up, as illogical as that is. But I feel like I can roll 5-ups better than I can roll 4-ups. But
Hmm.
there is a little bit more maybe defensiveness with if I don't know how long Ben's piloted IDK. This gentleman has the most corn you have ever seen in the Southern Hemisphere. Like literally, like I can't even tell you. I don't even know if maybe 50,000 points, maybe 100,000 points of it.
Jeez.
It's
Okay.
actually IDK. I'm a little worried for his back. He's a tall guy. He's got a lot of thralls to push around the board. I hope he's able to cope with it. But yeah, I think if he's played this army enough and he's got the rhythms down of it, he can use the tides to his advantage to kind of
Hmm.
cop a hit to a degree. And there is some 5-up wards and stuff that he can pop pretty easily to give a little bit more defensiveness. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't love taking a hit, eh?
Yeah, I think also like given the meta doesn't have a lot of shooting in it, that's maybe like a little bit of a negative for this list. It does
Yeah,
have two sharks. I feel
yeah.
like I missed that. Yeah. Okay, so then we have Bloodlords, Corey Armstrong Payne. So
Hmm.
this has the big unit, 30 blood letters, big unit.
Big dog.
That's a lot of red
Man,
angry
did you know
men.
this list? Yeah, this list screams of I've scored some absolute classic cheap deals off Facebook Marketplace. What am I going to do with all these bloodletters? I know, Bloodlords.
Yeah, because you got to at least have
What a
like
list.
20 in the bank to summon, right? So he's going to be carrying a lot of blood letters with him.
Or maybe he's just planning to like really throw them away early to let them die so that he can like use those as the summons. That's a classic strat.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just send him in to die.
Whoa.
But yeah, other than that, pretty
Wrath of
standard.
Corn.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I
that's
do
true.
like seeing that pop in there.
I
Wrath of
like
Corn.
it. It's a
But
it's a Stuart special, that guy. I run it with the unfettered, which is just weird, but he got the boom thirster with it, which makes sense. Um,
mhm.
I think that in this list, it probably would be better with the unfettered, given that there's 30 blood letters and you probably want a 3 to 6 charge them. But I get that
Yeah.
the boom thirster does damage. I get it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. And just for those who don't know the Wrath of Corn, like it's just got the chain activation. So Halo of Blood is fight first, right? Yeah. And so he can just fight first with that one and then immediately choose the Boom Thirster to go off next to him. So he'll probably be running these guys around as a dank little pair, just ready to be charged. And he's probably in a good spot with like the lack of shooting. And I haven't seen many Magic Dom armies yet, so there's not a lot of range threat potentially coming in. So this list could be yeah, he could pack a bit of a punch, eh?
he
For
also
this
has
little tournament meta.
the Wrath of Corn has a shooting weapon that is one attack and has a
Mm,
flat 6 damage. Um, which is just so wacky.
beautiful.
But there's actually quite a few armies where that can like it just like one shot a hero for you accidentally sometimes, which is great.
Mhm.
Yeah, so interesting. Interesting unit.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Emerald Host Nighthaunt with Olander and a bunch of heroes here. I think I like Kurdos. Kurdos to me is there's quite a few units like this in the game where it's just like the swing on the dice is just insane.
Yeah.
He can do so much work. And importantly, he's one of the few things with Nighthaunt that does like a lot of damage in your opponent's turn. So even if they charge him in, if you sit next to the Spirit Host, if he can live, then he can swing back and do some big damage because he still has Ren 3. The Nine of Shrouds on Ethereal Steed has a slightly like combat build where he has reroll to hit some wounds against stuff that isn't death. Interesting. And Black Coach in there.
Love a Black Coach. I was going to say that's a highlight.
Yeah.
Bit of style about this list.
So it's kind of got like some pretty decent hero killing because it's got the Terminexus and then Emerald Host and then Olander and then the Coach. So it's got like a good little hero killing battery, but it's lighter on the bodies for sure than the other Nighthaunt list that we've seen so far. So
yeah, interesting one.
Yep. All right. We'll move on to Coffee and Sigmar. Choking Hazard. I'm just trying to think about that. What is the premise there that you're using? You're using the model.
No idea. I'm going to be honest. Coffee and Sigma are a crew. They've got. I'm not sure if it's a club, but they've got like a pretty continuous roster of players and they often field like one or two teams at teams events in Queensland and in the trap. So there's a few familiar names here, like Stavros is usually in that roster. Yeah. No idea about Choking Hazard, so maybe they did like a bid and everyone had to have like a really large something to join the team. So I'm not too sure where these guys are going here, but huge shout out to them. Big Nate, what's he got OBR?
Okay, so Mortis Praetorians. So this list has 6 Stalkers, okay, which is spicy. And then other than that, it's quite similar to the other list we looked at before. It does have Xantos in there. I believe he has a +1 to wound aura for Mortis Praetorian stuff. So the other one had the artifact. This one has the aura from Xantos, and then it has the Bone Shaper for some extra recursion. Which can be awkward, but yeah. The Stalkers, I don't know. Yeah, so there's only 20 points between them and the upgrade, which is a Mortis or Archive, right? So, just I think whether that points difference makes a difference in some lists.
Yeah, and in this list, I guess it clearly did. He's bang on 2K, so it really must have. Yeah, it's an interesting list. I'm a big fan of Mortis Praetorians. I think it's a really fun army to play against as well, and it's got a lot of full interaction. So not much to say. I still think my previous comments around OBR, like I think they're a tough pick at the moment, and like I know 4+ is still really good. Like if any other army in the game had a 4+ ignore magic in this GHB, you'd be going, whoa. But when you know it was a 2+, it's pretty bitter pill to swallow. I think so. True, it's funny how context really changes it. So
it doesn't have a range either, does it now? So I mean, yeah, maybe people are slightly overreacting, but I mean, Mortis Praetorians is great though. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Morty slaps. Oh, here we are, Big War. Finally, some culture.
Oh, here we are. So we have
in these lists. Oh,
we have now. Those of you know that I'm not the greatest fan of orcs. Now, among the orc clans, the Big War is probably my favorite one. I hate playing Big War with a passion. It's like my least
boring to play, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest, it's quite a boring army to play. But in terms of, I will say, like, side note, on the modeling / collecting side of the hobby, it's probably one of the best armies, the Big War, because you can just like change stuff out, and like most of the models are great because like you don't run any bone splitter stuff really anyway, except the Wergog. So all of the other stuff is great. So amazing tactics, obviously. So most of them go Cruel Boys General now to get access to the Cruel Boys tactics. You have to do that now. So we have a dog boss, all right, who has super sneaky. Now I'm just trying to work out. I'm assuming there's Okay, so the super sneaky, I'm guessing in this list, is being used to lob 10 hobgrots
Bobby.
in an annoying place, or Gobby. Yeah, you might be right. But I remember
Yeah,
Orkman
yeah.
Orkman, who's on Team Australia, he used to take 20 hobgrot slitters, was super sneaky, and
Yeah.
at the start of the game he'd just set them in front of your army. And I remember one game I played Nurgle versus him, and I did that, and I moved my whole army, and then he said, "Okay, is that your last unit?" And then he redeployed roll a 6, and I failed all my charges. I'm just like, oh god, I've lost the game now. But yeah, that can be a play.
What a good dude.
But yeah, probably it's there's a few things you can do, right? Like put Gobs back in the corner outside of Unbind for getting magical dominance, or put him in range for magical dominance to stop magical dominance. There's a few things you can do there, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then other than that, 2 hammers in Gorgrunters and Rages.
Yeah, I think I would be. I think it'll be, and you could definitely do the hobbies. Might be good for tactics and stuff like that too. Actually, if you're thinking he's a 2-drop, so he may get to dictate that quite often, depending on what they pair him into. Maybe that's what they'll look for. But I think the benefit of this kind of list is, that command tray can help set up a tactic turn 1, or it can help deny a tactic turn 1 with Gobsprak and Magical Dom. It's not guaranteed, but it's pretty high chance if he's once per game 3d6 roll. So I think with Big War, like if you've got a list, I think Joel did this, didn't he? He did well last year or something. So one of the boys did down south where they were using Gobsprak to just turn off a turn 1 magic dominance, and then Big War is so easy to score tactics. Like you essentially put your opponent on the back foot from the 5 minutes into the game, and that's just a rubbish position to approach it psychologically. So it's got a couple of pretty traditional lists, couple of big hammers in there, brute rages. Don't know what weapons they've got, but they can really slap it, especially turn 2, turn 3. Once you've hit 20, 22 war points, they can really, really go to town. But Big War is just, I like Big War, but I played it at an Italian teams event a couple of months ago, and it was just boring. Like half the games, like turn 3, my opponent would look at me and I'd look at him and I go, "Well, I've kind of won this, eh?" And he's like, in Italian, he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "See." And I was like, because he just can't reach me and I can just score tactics not even doing anything. So I found that a little bit not as enjoyable. I don't really like factions that just sit back and don't interact, but it is a powerhouse for pairings for that reason. So you might see it in a defender type role. They might put this guy first and say, we're going to score 5, like come at us. So we'll see. Be interesting.
Yeah. Next we have John O'Williams, who's running one of the most Timmy lists in the whole event, which I have mad respect for. So we have a Warbringer with the damage, and then 2 6s of Storm Fiends with the damage. Okay.
That's huge, man. The double 2 times reinforced Storm Fiends. Damn.
So we have the damage.
What a big...
Now, because we have the damage, we've gone for Overshadow, because if we haven't killed our opponent, we're not going to win the game. So it's fine. It makes sense in this list. And I also think, Overshadow, when literally like 1,400 points of your army is battle line, I think is respectable, right? Like it's actually quite hard to kill all that. So, yeah.
Jesus. That is a crazy list. That is like, he is sending it, man. There is nothing backwards about this dude. He is pumping. Good on you, Jono.
Yeah, it's I guess the thing maybe I'd wonder about. So I don't know what weapons the Storm Fiends have. So maybe they have the Warp Grinder. I don't know. But yeah, maybe one of the heroes could be an extra 20 clan rats just for making sure you don't get 1-2 banged off the board.
Stu, this is what you've been doing wrong, though. I know you think Skaven, but you don't need screens if they have no units left. So I think this is pretty interesting.
I played one game with only 20 clarence yesterday, and I'm never doing that ever again. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Such an annoying little piss of a unit.
But yeah, this is more of the damage. Okay, then we have Stavros is running the Stomper tribe with so basically 2 Man Crusher blobs, and then a War Stomper with, I believe that's the 3d6 charge and the run and charge, so fast boy, and Kraken Eater with the, I think, reduce Ren by 1 or treat neg 1 as no Ren. I think that was. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to check.
And okay, we have another.
Big Rex.
Yeah, you're not allowed to take an All turn on this, so that's another thing that needs to be looked at. But because they're unique.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can't put
it. Yeah. But anyway, so Grix is in there. So yeah, it's interesting.
Bit on. I kind of wish that it's got the flavorings of something pretty interesting and cool. I do wish that Big Grix is random as, but I like random shit. But I kind of wish one of the mobs was split, so we could use them a little bit more freely as for tactic machines here. And I kind of wish there was a Beast Smasher in here, just so you could say, yeah, he's skewing into like a anti-monster build. Like he's really just ready to suplex some cunts and just really rip in. Can I say that? Sorry, suplex some people and really rip in. But yeah, it's a funky list. It's very different.
Yeah, he could maybe change the. It looks kind of like he's. I think he's aiming to play quite defensive with it, as sort of like a shooting castle almost. So that's why the Kraken's in there, I guess. You kind of sit there. It's actually got a lot of shooting for a Gargant army, because the Man Crushers and Stompers do. I'm not going to say good, but decent shooting. Okay shooting.
Yeah. It's destruction shooting. Easy.
It can sometimes do a lot, and then the same with the Bolt Boys. So yeah, bit of like a defensive, I think, kind of thing. Yeah. All right, we have the degenerates. Now, am I going to see some degenerate? Okay, there is one slightly degenerate list. So okay, good. All right, so it's not just
these boys are degenerate. I can confirm that they are local staples.
Okay, so Harris Shelton is running another Morty Peas. I think we probably can move on. It's kind of what we've seen so far. Then we have Stormcast with we have a Star Drake who has the command trait for giving all the behemoths -1 to wound. So he's -1 to wound, basically is what that means. And what does the Drake skill? I can't remember what that does. I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe it's.
It might give you re-roll saves. Is that one?
Yeah.
If it's like multi-damage.
Yeah, I think it's that one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And then we have the old Mr. Mayor of Value Town, which is the Lord Castellan with the Arcane Tome. I used to hate this thing back in the day where like Stormcast, oh man, it was so annoying. It's like, really, one model can give +2 save, really? Like, that's the thing, really? But yeah, he's in there. We have 6 Annihilators with Meteoric Grand Hammers, so the damage, and 5 Vanquishers for Call of Aid, and then some teleporting stuff and battle tactics. So, pretty good at battle tactics sort of army, but I wouldn't want to play it on a mission with a lot of I wouldn't want to play it on like lines of communication or any of those like fight in the middle sort of missions. But on something like Nexus Collapse, is probably not bad. Yeah.
It's a pretty I will give him credit. It's pretty unique collection of units here. Like there's a bit of like I haven't seen someone build into a Celestin on Star Drake to make them tanky as all hell in a little while. So I respect it. The grand strategy is pretty curious choice, eh?
So that one I actually think is slightly underrated. Yeah, I think if you're gonna we're looking at Overshadow before, right? Like if you got no other option, I think it is better than Overshadow. Like, so you basically need to have your opponent have no models within 6 of the middle of the board, which sometimes on terrain that literally is auto scored if there's like a massive tower in the middle sometimes, and then if you win the game, you're probably gonna get that. So it's like a bit of like a win more grand strat, right? Whereas with Overshadow, sometimes if you win the game, you don't get it, which is the problem with it, right?
Yeah. There's also the other stipulation of the artifacts. Yeah. So no enemy units can have artifacts as well. So and I don't know. There's a lot of battle regiments I've seen so far. So there's probably not a lot of like duplicate artifacts and things like that. You'd probably absolutely hate to come up against some sort of grey-feared
Oh
fire
yeah,
slayers
yeah,
list with like
yeah. No,
17
no, no,
artifacts.
no.
That'd be a
Fuck
tough gig, but
that.
outside outside of that, yeah, cool. That's yeah, I rate it. Yeah.
All right, then we have
Oh,
Lane
Lane.
Howson with the
Yeah,
pigs.
yeah.
The pigs.
Man loves them. Yeah.
So two weird knob shamans, and then a big cabbage, two war chanters, 12 pigs, and 20 art boys. So yeah.
Interesting. I like the mount trade he's gone for. I like that.
Uh,
I think it's a smart pick at the moment. That's the 4-up ward, isn't it? Is that Meenan?
no,
Or is that a different
that's
one?
weird. On Meenan is
Oh, that's Weirden.
you do I want to say D6 with the stomp instead. So I think you do D6 plus 4 or something like that. It makes the potential to charge again thing better. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Nice. Yeah, curious list. Yeah, he's been playing them for ages too. Also, like the shortest shorts of any man at a team's event I've ever seen outside myself. So huge respect for my boy Lane. Keep those thighs pumping, son. Here for it.
Okay, then we have. Okay, this is great.
Yeah. I knew you'd love this as soon as I saw it.
This is right up my alley. Okay, so
Yeah.
we have 24 Ogre and Therodons, which is like
18, right?
this is like no, so
Oh no, 24. Sorry, I didn't see those.
I don't know why these are here. They should be here,
Oh.
but oh no, maybe
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get one with the Ogre. I don't know because you never see this guy ever.
Yeah.
Also, he can't have Shaman of the Jeweled Lance. Okay, there's some things that need to change here.
Yeah, there's a few that will
Oh
need to be
no,
adjusted.
he can. I think can he? I don't know. Hold on. That might be big brain
Well, lucky.
because he can become a wizard, right?
Hang on.
Do you need to have
Yeah.
the right? Do you need to have the keyword to take the command trait? Is the question. If you don't, maybe it's big brain. Maybe the plan
Dude,
is.
Tony might be living in 2030 here. This might be hectic.
Also, I believe. Can he take a mark? I don't know. I guess he can. No, he can take a mark.
It's
I
a,
believe. Yeah.
It does say you need to be a locus to take it.
Okay,
so,
he can't take it then. So no. All right, we need to fix some.
Yeah.
Some things need to be fixed here, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, the Ogre Therodon slap, and he has. Now, personally, I think that the battle line, so the Corvus Cabal and the Unmade could probably be. So I think you only need one Unmade and then one Corvus Cabal, and probably 2 units of like 9 Spire Tyrants as nice little screens would be nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. No, it's because he's Kabbalist. Sorry, that's why he could take the Shaman of the Children. Sorry, that's what I missed. So he.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that makes him a wizard. So that's why he's doing that. Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
This is
Beefy. All right.
beefy. Yeah.
Drop Bears 2, Terminal Velocity. That's great. Okay. Okay. So we have, I want to say, is it Johan?
Johan, yeah.
Johan. Okay. I hit
Yeah.
that J a little bit hard. And,
You know what? Now I've said it, I'm double guessing. So apologies, brother. I've played this guy like 4 times. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met. You know those people you meet when they make you feel like an asshole just because they're so polite and so beautiful, and you're just existing. That's kind of this guy. He's so nice.
okay.
So I'll probably just butchered his name.
We have so this is Iron Suns, so it's not Bloodtooth. So we have yeah, I'm a fan
Culture.
of it. Cabbage,
Yep.
and then Tusk Boss, and then Weird Knob, 2 War Chanters, and then a Big Pig, 10 Art Boys, 10 Brutes, and 6 Rages. So
Yeah, it's keen. I'm not a fan of the Tusk Boss. I think he's just so expensive, and I think in Iron Suns you really want more units to be able to take the benefit from the counter charge and stuff. But
yeah,
I do know that Mr. Grove, as I'm going to call him, he plays a lot of Oakenbrow as well, so he's a big fan of like big models and like moving around, and he's very nuanced with his movement. He's a very purposeful player, so like, you know, he's clearly written this list to get some juice out. So I'd be very keen to see what he does with it, because I just wish the Tusk Boss was 100 points cheaper.
Yep. Then we have Scott Wyatt. I know who that is. Shout out to Scott.
Yes.
Love Scott. Great human. We have Calibron, Doc, with Marathi and the Bow Snakes. So, yep.
Iconic.
Iconic. I played against it yesterday, and I lost to it with Skaven, and I felt very salty about that, but it's, Calibron is insanely annoying, to be honest, because you can teleport out of combat, and that's really annoying. Yep.
Battle tactic farm.
Now, the 80 point triumph bid is wild. Just want to say that. That's a big triumph bid. Big.
It's huge. That's the biggest we've seen so far, right? 1940 was the previous biggest.
Yeah, that's a big bid. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a couple of good, like that's at least there's a few endless spells you could slot in for that, then still have points for a triumph bid. Where do you reckon Scott's going to be sitting in the team matchup with this kind of list?
Yeah, I mean it's probably quite a good it's quite a good first defender, particularly if you can pick the map right. Yeah.
Yeah. Scores a lot of tactics. He could champion out.
Yeah. For sure. I mean the tactics are insane, and the grand strat. I think I'd say with the grand strat is there's a lot of units here that your opponent doesn't have to kill. So that can be a problem with the grand strat because there's like 5 units here that teleport, right? So if even one of them gets kind of locked out the game, it can be a problem.
Yeah, it's a good point.
The Heart Renders you can always they're great because you just send them in and die at the end of the game. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Nicole Wyatt is running Nighthaunt with a load of Harridan. So this is great. I literally was playing this today. So this is great. Ruler of the Spirit Host now. Okay. We don't have this is like Soulblight regen from wish.com this command trait, but it's like once per game, alright, you can roll a dice and on a 4-up you can bring back a unit. So it's not good, but it's all we've got, alright? So once one of those 20 bucks dies on a 4-up, you can get 10 back. Awesome.
That's great. That's good return.
So yeah. But yeah, this one's kind of similar to the Blade Guy spam, right? But leaning into the Harridans, basically.
Just remind me, Quicksilver Dead. I haven't seen that in a hot minute. What's that again?
So you can't take wards against the Harridan's attacks. So with the bodyguard changes and stuff,
that's right.
Yeah, they're quite handy.
Yeah.
I quite like
this is a dank list.
Yeah, I quite like the cogs as well because she's got the auto cast with the midnight time, so you can like auto cast the cogs and then put up that reroll charges for everyone when they drop down. The only thing I don't like about the list, and there isn't a solution, because I've tried to find a solution to this, is that the chain rasps are like one of the worst units in the whole game. They're so bad for 100 points. But with Nighthaunt, again, you just have to work with what you got. It's the best screen we have, and it sucks, but it is what it is. So yeah.
I didn't quite realize Nighthaunt's just absolute Darrow death. Hey, it's just such a it'll be absorbed into destruction in AOS 4 that's coming for sure. It's going to be part of destruction just so they can really justify how much they shit on it. It's just reading through these is making me go, damn.
Yeah, I know. And then this is a spicy list.
Tim.
This is spicy. So okay, Vostarg, great, love it. And we have, I believe it's 50 Volkites with hand axes, and then we have the 2 units of Aether Wings for the tactics, and the Flame Seekers. What are they doing again? So the turn off monsters rampages, right?
Rampages. Yeah. Why not?
I'm guessing probably it's just a points. Yeah, it's just a points thing, I think, really.
But,
probably they're here to die, I would suspect.
Yeah.
For the Flame Keepers, that's probably their role, right?
Yeah.
And then you slap with the Volkites with the double Flame Keeper buffs. I will say because it's not Graveyard, so you get some more like offense, but in terms of your anti-magic tech, you do lose so you got the icon, but you lose the the once per game like turn off vision for magic one, right? Which can be pretty handy in some matches. Yeah. So you lose some tech, but you gain some more like beef like just raw output, right?
Yep.
So basically worse into Seraphon and better into everything else. But I think is the summary.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount of Seraphon anyway, right? And they're very savvy pairers, so they're going to be able to like navigate him to a favorable matchup. There's a few questions I have on this one. I think it's interesting. I'm a massive fan of Vostag. I remember when this battle tome dropped, Tim and I were jerking each other off around how many Volkites we could each buy, and it's just such a ripper list. It's funny that my list that I was playing like I don't know when it 2 years ago just recently became like perfect again, right? And I was like, yeah. It's such value. Games Workshop. It's just such a value investment, you know. But yeah, I'm interested why he went the general on the Rune Sun instead of the Rune Master. There's a heap of I really think like with Vostarg having the extra because one of the options you can go is the Master Priest command trait. You can, which gives you the chance to go use a rune a second time, and if something doesn't turn out as good as you need it to or whatever, it's just the agency you've got with that command trait is so impactful for the whole army. Whereas Blood of the Berserker is huge in one interaction in the game. But I'd be keen to know. Tim's very cluey dude. Like I'd be keen to know what what led him there from playtesting and stuff. So cool list. I rate it.
Cool. I think that team's super interesting. Yeah, that they've got a lot of like.
Yeah.
For me, I think like this Nighthole can be like this can like really pin Seraphon with the two Banshees. So there's interesting kind of stuff going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Hobbygrots. So Nathan Gibbs is running Hollow Morn with a load of horrors. I'm a fan of this approach. And Usharan. Now 6 horrors, it does die. Yeah, that's the only thing I would say there. So again,
but it's kind of all right?
Yeah.
Like I think like the way I'm looking at modern Feck is it reminds me of actually Fire Slayers in a way, which sounds crazy, but also Gits where you kind of need like you're paying for recursion, and if your stuff isn't dying, you're not getting your value proposition, I guess, from it. So I toss and turn on Feck in this way. Like he's got like he's obviously built it for tactics as well. Like he's got the Jewel of Knights. Like he's going to be able to score some turn 1 tactics. I've played against Nathan with old book Feck. I played Bone Splitters back then. This was one of my first tournaments I ever went to actually with AOS, and he's a very very savvy general. So I'd be keen to see what he's very defensive, plays positions immaculately, and just can really play Feck really well. So yeah, he's not jumping on that bandwagon. He was on top of the black coach for a long time before Feck got a new book too. So I'd be keen to see what he does with this.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I mean, I think basically the problem with the book is that the courtiers are just like pretty bad aside from the guy who's got Cruel Taskmaster. So yeah, like the regenning models part is not as good as it was, but now you can regen units. So I guess and the Abhorrent units are just better as well. So people leaning more into that. We have Nurgle. I believe this is the first Nurgle list we've seen so far, right? With the flies. And I think you're going to see this a lot over the next coming months, which is kind of another kind of full circle thing, which is going back to the flies. But there are some interesting pieces in here. So we have Gut Rot with the 2 units of Rotmire to, potentially threaten a deep strike with some shooting. And Orgots, who's still really annoying for armies to deal with. It's just like such a tanky dude. And then the Harbinger as well is also quite difficult to deal with the turn-off commands and the 4-up board. So, still a good army.
Yeah, and the Poxbringer. He didn't expect to get called up for this roster. He was sitting on the couch eating, and they were like, come on, you're coming along, mate. He's like, what the fuck? I'm not coming. What a list.
He's usually in there for the summon, because you can summon him with Blizzard, and that can be spicy, but it's... Yeah, he's in there.
Bring him along.
Yeah.
Jaden, also, he was at CanCon. He was pumping. I think he was in the top 8.
Oh,
I think he played on the last. Yeah. So he was doing really well. So this is a really strong team, like the team we just saw. That a couple of punters in here with a lot of skill to back these lists. So sorry, I just thought I'd shout that out as well. Very interesting.
All right, we have Aaron Gensch with Soulblight, who's running 40 Graveguard, and Radakar the Beast, and a Vampire Lord, and Belladamma Volga. So those Graveguard like hit like an absolute truck in this army, and then basically like kind of some mobile units to do stuff. So the Direwolves and the Blood Knights. Yeah. Does a lot of damage.
Just remind me.
Yep.
Empire of Corpses. I always get the name mixed up with Soul Blight. Is that the Grand Strat where they have to bring...
Yeah, the dead summonable units back, I believe, is this one. Yep. So I think you have to bring... I believe
it's not a lot of MSU.
Back.
Yeah. Interesting. I always feel like I see that played with a lot of like fell bats and things like that, so you can just like lob them in early and just feed them a death so that you can be having just a lot more chances to roll. So I don't know, might be some aggressive plays here.
Yeah. Then Thomas Orr's running has to be said of kind of a very defensive corn list. Like it's got 20 Blood Warriors and 6 Skull Crushers, so things on high saves that don't die. In Skull Fiends, which, I mean, basically it's the strikes first when you roll an 8. He has 2 Korgoraths as well. That's almost like a... Okay, so I can...
Alright.
Yeah, I don't like the Korgorath. I tried it. I ran 10. It's a funny thing, because when it went down in points, right, I did the thing where I go, I'm going to run a list with 10, and then over a month, it just gradually got lower and lower and lower, until 0. Like, just every list going down by 1 Korgorath. They're okay. They heal when they do damage. The problem is they don't do damage. So it's like A, yeah. You need B for A plus B to equal C. So, yeah, it's interesting. Okay, we have the...
That's cool list.
Hub Marines with Doc. This is not Marathian the Bow Snakes. This is the Spear Snakes with kind of like the buff pieces and screens and heart renders. So kind of a more quote-unquote honest version of Doc.
Yeah.
Just wanted to check. Okay, so I think it looks like it doesn't have the prayer for Battle Shock immunity, so I would be slightly worried about that with the Blood Sisters, but yes, any case. A
lot of investment.
I'm not convinced with the Spear Snakes yet, personally, but the 4-up rally is annoying, but yeah, I kind of like maybe 1 unit, maybe 2. That's a lot of fighting, but maybe on those missions where you fight more in the middle, this sort of list might be stronger than your traditional Doc list.
Yeah, I was mucking around recently with those avatars of Kane. When I first saw the start of the list, I was like, oh, is he going to run a few of them? Because they're just like, they're an annoying model, like for the points cost. Like if they're around the cauldron, they're actually really tanky. And they've just got a lot of, I don't know, I feel like there's some real juice you can do with them, but no, it doesn't have any, sadly.
There was one point in history where I was running a meme Doc list, which had Gotrek and 4 avatars of the Kane. Which is... Because at the time... they changed one of the tactics, I think, but Gotrek could literally do all of the tactics, so that was spicy at one point.
As it should be. As it should be. The little king should be able to run around, just pump motherfuckers and just do whatever tactic he wants. Magical dominance. Buss.
Alright, we have the first Seraphon list, which is your traditional kind of Starborn Fangs of Sotek with Croak.
Sally P.
Yeah, this one does have a Celestin Prime. So it used to be you'd have like 450 points to play with of random kinks, but now you've only got like 300 or so points. So yeah. I will say it does only have Gravetide as the endless spell, so there's no like Maelstrom or Portal in here. So, I'd definitely probably include Maelstrom in every Seraphon list, but the points are awkward. I get it. Yeah. Oh man, I just reminded myself.
I just don't have any. Seraphon's such a like, it's just such a common like all known. The list I find I don't know. They've done that battle time so dirty. Like there's just so much they could do with it, but they just had to copy past to the last one and just tune it up a bit. Like it was such a wasted opportunity.
We have Kobe next, who's got like the meat and intellectual list, which is Kragnos. This is great. Kragnos, 3 Stonehorns, and 2 Mornfang.
What a weapon! In a battle, Reg, +1.
Now,
Yeah,
I was thinking about
2
Kragnos
drops.
the other day, right? He's probably better now than he was. A lot of his problems have been a little bit nerfed out the meta. So cities being one of them, right? No cities is great because he would just get shot off turn 1 back then. And yeah, I kind of feel like he maybe could come back into the meta a little bit. Probably more in Meat Fist, but this is kind of a similar approach. You do lots of mortal wounds when you charge. The problem is, I don't know how many wounds this list is. If I do some quick mental math, I believe it's 32, 60, 77. It's like 91 wounds or something like that. It's like 93.
It's light on.
Yeah, so it's not a lot of stuff, and it can die very quick. But
it's interesting. He's foregone the artifact in lieu of a null dust couch, which is a curious play.
Yes, because the ogre artifacts are a joke. So
they are. I know you said before that like OBR were like the most nerfed book in history, but you know that a book sucks more than anything when it hasn't copped that many nerfs. Like apart from the Iron Blasters and the Noblars were a crime against humanity, and we need an ICAC commission investigation on that. That's rubbish. They should still be 100, but like nothing else has been like nerfed. Like that book just sucks. Like they stripped it so hard. I cry myself to sleep twice a week thinking about that time.
I know. It's like Seraphon, isn't it? Right? Like it's the classic you had one job thing. Like with ogres, it's like you had one job, which is like make it so I don't have to take a Frostlord and Stonehorn in every list. You had one job, and then you made it better, and then everything else worse.
Yeah.
And same with Seraphon and Croak, right? So
Anyway,
we have Zinch.
Luca.
Yeah. So kind of a traditional sort of Zinch list, but then it has 6 Farangard as like the hammer. So Zinch kind of has a bit of a deficit in the unit that does stuff department. So you see a lot of like Ogre Therodons as the other kind of ally that's often, or I think Coalition technically, that's in there. Other one you see sometimes is Bliss Barb Archers, because a lot of the units that are in the Zinch book that are not the heroes are like pretty weak source for the most part. Probably the ones you'd be looking at now that are good would maybe like Zangors with the 2-inch reach, but other than that, it's pretty easy to kill. So I find with the Vanguard, they're just vulnerable to just random divine interventions where just like some horrible dice happen and then you lose 3 of them and then they don't do any damage anymore. That's my problem with the unit, but they are great when you can kind of protect them well.
Yeah, I find them, for what their profile says on paper, they swing so much harder than I really have any ability to comprehend. I remember at CanCon a couple of years ago, I played Mick, and he was running like 12 of them with Archaon, and I had Old Bok, and he double fought 3 of them into just a brick of Zangor, and I think he killed like 4. And I was like, oh, and he was like, oh, that's game. And I was like, yeah, let's get a beer. It was just such a shitty moment, like where they should have just wiped the table with like, that whole thing, and they just did nothing. I don't know. I just find them I don't know. They're a flatulent unit for me, but they, on paper, they do hit pretty friggin' hard. But Zinch, interesting ally. This is a cracking name. Yeah. This is a good name.
Yeah. And also the lists are wild, by the way. I saw this one before. These are wild. Okay, so Landlords huge. On Stonehorns. Okay. So Jordan DeVista, that name rings a bell. I think he's on Twitter. But yeah,
he is.
So pigs. But Yeah, there is a weird knob in there, but basically it's pigs with 10 art boys.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty common. I do love that he's gone Master of Magic just to make that turn one magical dominance a little bit more likely to help him out, which is pretty smart. And I'm also a huge fan of the command entourage with looks like he's double spelled it with to have Horfrost and Basham lads
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
really juice up some of those piggy boys. So yeah, that's got heaps of fun. I'm fortunate enough. I play with Jordan and Sam. When I'm in Australia, they're the boys I play probably the most. So um, they've I get to play these lists quite often, unfortunately. But Jordan's pretty awesome on Bloodtooth. He's been rocking that for ages. You've probably seen him on Twitter because he's been developing a really sick like mobile turn by turn Warhammer esque kind of game called Manafield. So he's been punching out a heap
Right.
of content recently. So yeah, very cool, very cool. But yeah, Sam's list. He's back on ogres. This is huge. He hasn't been playing a lot of Sigma recently, so it was good to see him jump back into a team format. Man, more Underguts. Underguts an interesting choice here, eh?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess from what you're losing from the other sub factions, so if you went bold ahead, you'd get an extra command trade on one of the Stonehorns, but only one of them kind of does anything, and then you'd lose a wound, but it's not a huge deal. Lists I've kind of seen popping around on TTS often are like 5 monsters with an Iron Blaster, or like 4 monsters with some Iron Blasters, or just various configurations of that, because it's just good for killing stuff at range. You don't always want to like full commit with this army, right? Like maybe when you first start playing the army, it's like that, but actually it's more of a like a tactics kind of played defensive sort of army, and then push when you need to. So I like the 20 Noblars in there for that purpose as well. They're super annoying. You know what? So someone pointed out to me in a game yesterday that so the 20 Noblars have a champion, right? Okay, they have a groin biter. Okay, and then the Stonehorn Beast Riders cannot issue commands to themselves.
Correct.
It's just like 2 ogres on a Stonehorn, but okay, yeah, they don't have a Noblar. So the Noblars are actually quite good, like little solo operators, because they have a champion, so they actually can do stuff. They're interesting.
They're a great unit.
I think so. Then we have Scott Moss, who's running basically the Sylvaneth version of pigs. That's what I would call it.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's pretty similar to the other one. So this is Spire Rider Lancers.
It's great.
So they get strikes first when they charge. And he has Belthanos to give them all run and charge. So this is, if you were going to call a list full send, this would be one of them. It doesn't have to, but it definitely can.
I kind of wish. Oh, he's 2,000 on the nose. Okay, forget it. I was going to say I kind of wish there was a Seekers unit in there that you just can't do it with the points. Yeah. But
I agree.
You know what? This is actually I don't really like Slaughter of Sorcery that much, but this list actually has a good chance at like actually slaughtering some sorcerers. Like it's very quick, can pile in huge. Like it snaps.
Yeah.
He's in the Evergreen Hunt.
Yeah, that's what I just noticed, because I was like, what is this Heartwood Hunting Wood thing do? I was like, what is that? So this is the Army of Renown.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't remember this off the top of my head, because I read it once and then no one ever took it, so okay, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I know there's that little quarry system, but yeah. Alright, then we have the Thunder Lizards. This is great. With 8 Stegodons. They did go down in points. I think you get 1 extra now. Now, the Stegodon Chief. Also, this is spicy, by the way, right? So he has Eater of Magic and Hand-Carved Nullstone Icon, right? I was reading this Eater of Magic thing today, right? So, this is basically when you unbind a spell on a 5 up, you make them forget it, okay? Now, it is a 5 up. But there's certain armies where if that went off, that would be horrible. Like, if I'm playing Skaven and you do that to my Death Frenzy turn 1, I'm going to cry. Like, that's so bad. It's interesting. So that's spicy, I think. Interesting. That's an interesting list.
It's pretty crazy. I just really hope that Gokhan has painted them all the same, so that every opponent has that like Fire Slayer like moment where it's like, shit, which one's a hero? Like, I really hope that there's no differentiation. they're just identical models, and he's just going to be an absolute prick. He won't have. He's a very considerate guy, but that's my dream. Yeah, this whole the landlords on Stonehorns. I can sense one direction. What a boy band this group is
I
going,
know,
and
it's
it
like
is
a concept
forward.
album, isn't it? It's like, yeah.
It's unreal.
It's
A
great.
lot of flavor here.
It's
A lot
great.
of flavor.
All right, we have the that's a wild name. The Moose Crucifixion. Okay.
Okay. Like this has some sort of like urban dictionary. I'm just looking at it because this definitely is. Actually, I might jump into some sort of VPN before I search this, so I don't get like picked up by the local authorities for searching something real cook.
So we have Matt Gamey who's running Sylvaneth with a bunch of
Yep.
monsters in Oakenbrow, basically, and some
Yep.
Gossamids. So this was really popular a while ago, but for some reason, Sylvaneth, it's just like you have a list that's in the meta, and then it falls out of the meta, and no one knows why. No one knows, and then no one knows while it comes back into the meta either. It's all a mystery with Sylvaneth. Why they have such a low play rate.
Just trees, man.
Anyway,
They've got quite a. I think they're a little bit unforgiving, to be honest. Like I think they have a decent feeling. Like they've got lots that they can do, and you see them just like they'll drop out of the meta, and then they'll be in the top 5 of like a huge tournament, and you're like, what the hell? Like, and it's just some random king who's just been sitting there grinding in the dark for like months to just hone some sort of rand list and just pump it. So Matt has he's maybe going to be the most beautiful man in that whole venue, which is saying something because it's an RSL. He's a good looking rooster, but that army as well is a sexy army. So I will say that I've played against Matt twice, and he is an awesome dude, and he's a beautiful painter too. So that'll be a beautiful army to play against.
all right, we have Michael who's playing Thunder Lizard Coalesce, so similar to the previous list. Also has the Nullstone gear, and he has 3 units of little assassin hunters Apache dudes, which is wild.
Yeah, love it. What's the Stegadon spam going on here? What Robin this like Stegadon
well,
meta
they
in
went down in
Queensland?
points, right?
They must have had a deal.
See that? So we were talking about the placebo buffs before, and Seraphon did get some of those. Now, the thing I'm not sure about is the Chief. I think for me, he's still not worth it. But the basic Stegadons are maybe all right at 240. They're not bad, I think, for 240 now. He does have the 2 Basties with Arca Sotek for 180. I still think they're solid. Yeah. All right, Stormcast. We have Hallowed Knights with a big block of 15 Vindictors with the 5-up ward from Garda Steelsol. So, tanky boys. And the only thing is it's not Stormkeep, so they don't count for extra projectors. But honestly, like, that's fine, because you want to bring stuff down as Stormcast with teleports, or you can't do battle tactics, so as much as Stormkeep is fun, it's I think Sirens is better for most people. And yeah, a bunch
They
of
do have
Annihilators.
the Judicators can release the Hounds to go do Surround and Destroy and stuff like that as well. So he does have a little bit of flexibility, I guess, with that kind of thing. They're an interesting unit. They always look so good on paper, but when you actually kind of work it out, they don't really do a whole lot. So I'm keen to see how he goes with those. Cool list.
We have Luke McFadden who's running Soulblight. Kind of a Hero Hammer, like Neffy, Manfred, Zombie Dragon, and crap list. It can get stuck on stuff, is what I'd say with this list. So you wouldn't want to play it against an army that has a lot of like bodies. We haven't really seen that so much so far, but maybe like an example before would be, there was that list that had 6 Skull Crushers and 20 Blood Warriors. Like that might be pretty difficult to get through, I'd suggest. But if you're kind of fighting like, just smaller units. In terms of battle tactics and scoring and stuff, this is great. But yeah, just sometimes it has a damage issue.
Yeah, they should be able to navigate the pairings to kind of give it something that's pretty good, though. I guess that's probably the first list here I've seen that probably needs a little bit of love, or could be an interesting champion. Sick.
All right, we have MTG mates. I'm assuming they play the Magic the Gathering. So we have Ogre list, I think we've covered it, but Boulderhead and 4 Stonehorns and 4 Mournfang. We have a Skaven list by Jonathan Williams with okay, this is wild. So we have okay. There was you know how there was that Alliance Open event where people were playing these sorts of lists over the weekend, which is just like Skaven lists with Overshadow and a bunch of things that do damage in slightly random looking configurations, and they did well with it. So, more kind of discrete functioning like power pairs and stuff. So like Master Molder plus Rat Ogre power pair with Warlock Bombardier plus Storm Fiends power pair. And then you got like the Slink guys, which are good. They are kind of expensive, but they do stuff turn 1. I'm slightly disappointed that there's no Doom Wheel in here, but
yeah, I feel like he's got a lot of style, but he's just missing the cherry. It's an unadorned cake.
Yeah, you got to have that Wizard Finder Doom Wheel. That's the glory. You got to like fully lean into the fact that he's a behemoth and can fit in that battalion, right? The smallest behemoth to ever exist.
I'm a big fan of the Hell Pit Abominations are pretty curious units, eh? I think they've got a lot of I like them.
It's great when you play versus someone who has like 30 skeletons and they're like, this unit's invincible, and they're like, no, it's not. You're dead.
Hold my beer.
We have Eddie McCormick, who's running the Gotrek with old mate. With it's kind of like Gotrek and his arch nemesis are in the same list, which is the Navigator, which I find funny. Because if Gotrek gets hit by that, he cries. But yeah. So how do we feel about KO with Gotrek? I don't know. So the rest of the army does battle tactics while he goes on his travels around the world, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, he just holds a point and they just dick around the edges and be what they are. I don't know. KO's an interesting army for that. I think Carl in Canada was playing them this combination for a little while, so it's done the rounds. It gives them something they don't have, but the question is, do they need it? But like I said, there's not a lot of there's a lot of like fighting missions where they can pair into something. Man, imagine that mission. Oh man, starting in the middle. Oh, Christ.
Yeah, no reward. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I couldn't think of the name.
Yeah, okay. So the only thing we got right, you don't want to play against like Harridans or something because he's just instantly dead. Just dodge that matchup. No ward, you're dead. You don't want to play that. Okay, Paul Long, Stormcast. So this is, I think, like Darren Watson from UK is running something similar to this over the past few months, which is like you have the Tempesters block to come down and do the shooting and the tactic, and then you have long strikes, and then Bastion to redeploy like either the Incanter or the long strikes or both, for the purpose of shooting and magical dominance and that. And it's easy to do spellcasting Savant with this sort of army because you have mirror shields, so your Encounter can't be shot from more than 9 away, and you just stand there at the back the whole game. And yeah, Ionis, who... It's interesting, because when Ionis and Belthanos came out, I was like, Belthanos is way better than Ionis. But actually, Ionis is, even though he has no ward, he's a pretty tasty piece. He does get the 6 up here, but you're seeing him everywhere as allies and stuff at the moment.
Yeah, he's so aggressively priced for that. Like, he's just that ally perfect slot, eh?
Yeah, for 400. Yep.
This is a cool list. It reminds me, it makes me think, like there's actually the combos in it. As you're kind of going through it, I was like, this, I think you'll get paired into this. And if you don't understand it, you're going to get caught with your pants down quite abruptly, I think, in terms of tactic disruption and some actual solid output in turns where maybe you didn't expect it. So it's a cool list.
Yeah, it can. It's just one of those lists that can really not do a lot and win the game just with tactics and strategic plan stuff. So interesting. We have Riley Reid's backup dancers. Okay, okay, not surprising that Dave's on the team with that name. He's at
Yeah.
least got the.
Couple of dirty boys here.
Okay, so Days running Stormcast with a load of Dracothian Guard and 6 Vanguard Raptors in Hammers of Sigmar with Sev, old mate Severus. So and he's got I believe that's the run and charge Holy Command. So
Yeah.
but he's going for
That's a dirty list.
Overshadow. Yeah, I mean this is quite like a almost destruction-y Stormcast list. It's a lot of damage. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unlike Dave. He's usually quite a reserved, nuanced kind of guy. Steers clear of these kind of hard-hitting destruction style army. So these guys won Runax actually, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bit of clout.
Then we have Starborn with this list is spicy.
Yes.
Hold on, this is nice. Okay, hold on. So Croak. Oops. We have so Croak, Astro, Pterodon, Slan, Starseer, Ripidactyl, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pterodon is a cheap thing to suicide for for doing spells and stuff, and then the Ripidactyl Chief, I'm guessing, is to go do missions of tactics, and there's Pterodons, Hunters for the same reasons, and 3 units of 5 Raptidon charges. Now, okay, so this one, the only thing I would be slightly worried about is no Saurus Guard, but yeah, maybe the aim is to summon them ASAP. Is the kind of thinking. But just if you play some armies, you Croak is in danger of getting killed by some shooting. But there's no shooting at this event, pretty much. So he's going to have a great time with Croak. Because
you know what?
Is so pointless.
Yeah, he will have a. Yeah, this is there's other. I really like I'm a big fan of Pterodons and the Chief and his ability to throw some slows and drop some mortal wound bombs. That once per game 2 up, which is pretty juicy. Looking at the Ripidactyl Chief with that relic, he's got 6 attacks at flat 3 damage. Like he could, if you finest out him, he could have a real big go turn into the backline. It's a funky combo.
Yeah, and the charges as well. Like, kind of one of the only things in Seraphon that just does like pretty solid damage. Like they're like pretty actually damaging, because to get 2 damage when they're contesting an objective. So just really solid for teleport 7 away, and then do the tactic to take an objective with a skink unit, for example. It could be super good for that. So yeah, interesting list. I maybe would make one of the charges 5 Saurus Guard, and then I think now what has it got in terms of endless spells? Has it got any? I don't think it has any in it. I think you fit any, right? Okay.
None. No, can't fit them.
But I get it, right? Like you want stuff on the board, because you get even less than you used to. So it's definitely a way of thinking that should be considered. Okay, we have a list, which is Nick standing with Ogre Maw Tribes, which is Kragnos Meat Fist with so basically it's Kragnos, and then your min battle line is achieved by the Hunter, the 2 units of Frost Sabers, and the Stonehorn's supposed to be in there as well. Now this is actually not 1 drop, so this will need to be looked at. It's actually 2 drop, because you can't the Stonehorn lose the Behemoths thing if you have the Ice Spray Hunter as the general, but so that's actually 2 drop. But so what can I say about this list? I mean, the Gorges can come up and charge and do mortal wounds. I don't know. It's just you're paying a lot of points to fix the battle line problem, right? With this Ice Spray Hunter guy.
Yeah, listen, yeah. I think Gorges I'm not a huge fan. And the new More Pack's curious, but it's a lot of points for a t-shirt save. It's a fair few wounds, I guess, but it's a lot of points for not much ability to cop a hit. I guess the synergy of Kragnos getting them in is nice. Pretty skewy list, so I don't know. Maybe he's done some testing on it and he can throw down some pretty dank dank combos, but I think it's a very curious list. I've noted that down for the battle reg too. By the way,
Yep.
I'll get the boys updated.
And then Nick Argent's running Knights the Empty Throne with a bunch of Varangard and Be'lakor. Yeah, I think we know what that does.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward kind of list.
Yeah, they'll get 5 at rally on the Varangard, and they get run in charge, so pretty fast. And then you can kind of go in, pin, and then disable something with Be'lakor. So yeah, pretty standard list there.
Yeah.
All right, we have simple math.
Yeah.
So is this Matt Dale or no? Matt,
No, this is
no.
Matt Daly. Very
Okay.
confusing. I know.
Okay.
No,
All right.
different. Very similar.
So another
Oh, that's a
fellow
lot
with
of growls.
another fellow with of the Thralls, Hopi and Bong. We have 60 Thralls. But this isn't Morphan, so the bring stuff back sub faction. I kind of ran something similar, but I was doing like the no battle shock thing instead of the Kelly and King. But yeah, that when you run 2 units, it's the battle shock does become a little bit of an issue. But he has gone Indomitable. What's the Triumph bid? 1960. Okay, so that's the solution.
960.
That's the solution there. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have Keegan Watson who's doing Stormcast with
Yep.
the -1 to wound Star Drake. So we have the full defensive Star Drake again. Someone's been talking to somebody or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Star Drake's in 2024.
Leaks tech.
Star Drake's in 2024. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Aventus Firestrike, which I've never seen ever. But he would get the -1 to wound, I believe, from the command trait. And
That's pretty that's style points though. Dude,
yeah.
Aventus.
Yeah. Still nobody knows how his and the Toralon's ability is supposed to work. Is it a pulse ability or is it a 3-inch aura? Nobody knows. We'll find out. I think Wells has ruled it as a 3-inch aura, which is terrible, but I don't know. We'll figure out how it works in this tournament. Yep, and then Fulminators, so that's that. And then Bloodlords, pretty standard list with Scarbrand and 20 Bloodletters. I think we've talked. And 6 Blood Crushers. Well, I guess that's a bit spicy, but...
Yep.
And
Curious for tactics. Yep.
Then King's Broad Stomp. This right here is basically the copy pasta that everyone's playing on TTS, which is, since the points changes, you can go War Stomper and you can now... so it used to be 2 Gatebreakers and Broad. Now you change one of them to War Stomper and you could fit an extra mini Gargant in there. So...
Yeah, it's nice.
He should have a Null Stone. I think that's missing, but you would want to have that, I'm assuming, in that list.
On the War Stomper, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. TNA gluten-free. So James Fuller's running a pretty similar list to what we've seen so far. So I think all of them have been Holy Morn with this kind of like lineup.
Is that literally the same?
No, I think
No, it's not. No.
I think there's a few things that are different. I think most of the units are the same, but like I think the other one had the Moorbag Knights in 2s, 3s. But I think other than that, it's pretty much literally the same aside from the gear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Chris Clark, OBR, Mortis Praetorians. I think pretty similar to what we've seen so far, just with more kind of MSU. 2 units of Archive, 3 Stalkers, 3 Mortis Guard. We have Doc. Now this is interesting. So it's a Bloodrack Medusa, which you don't see very often, but and it's Xanthar Kai, which is the Pylon on Death for the snakes. It also makes them battle line, I believe. Yeah. And 10 Stalkers, 10 Sisters, 10 Sisters. So personally, I think you probably want one of those to be a bigger block for the 4-up rally. Otherwise, you're at risk of one of those units getting exploded, and then you're not going to be able to bring them back. But yeah,
I will say, knowing this team pretty well as well, Zach's a very, again, just one of those players that's really considerate and like really considered with like what he does. So it doesn't surprise me that he's banking. Like he would have written this list knowing his play style, right? Like that's obviously what every fucking person does. But he's very not defensive, I think, but like the few times that I've played Zach or in a team against Zach, it's always like you think, oh, I've paired into him. This is going to be like this is a good matchup. But he always manages to pull something out, and he's been playing Doc. He plays a lot of 40k as well, but he's been playing Doc as his Sigma army for some years now. So I don't think I've seen him change off it at all. So he's got a lot of reps with that too. So I'd be interested to see what he pulls out.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. And then we have Zach Johnson, who's running Slanesh. Is the first Slanesh?
Yep.
Might be the first one, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So Be'lakor, Glutos, obviously Pretenders. A lot of pain and Shard Speaker, and then 2 10s of Bliss Barbs, 20 Demonettes, and 10 Painbringers. So kind of a defensive
20 Demonettes.
Yeah. The defensive blob in the Painbringers, and then a slightly offensive blob in the Demonettes with like -1 to save potential from the Shard Speaker. Yeah. Personally, yeah, I always would run probably Bliss Barb Seekers in Slanesh, but yeah, I get obviously the points are difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, they double down on it. But even like running the Demonettes, I can understand as a kind of cheap, but not really cheap screen. But reinforcing it's a curious move, eh? I wonder what the source is there.
I think that's kind of like a. I don't want to say well, I guess kind of a hammer, right? Like a medium fast kind of mid board damagey unit. It is still quite
belt hammer
for what it does. Yeah. Really. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm keen to see what he does with it. He's clearly practiced it and got some juice there. So we'll see how he pulls it out.
Okay, so there was the gluten-free team, and now we have the maximum gluten team. So
yeah,
sponsored by Subway or something. I don't know.
No, I think they actually are just like full celiacs and non-celiacs. So I think that's actually like a literal shout out to their guts. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Shout out to the microbiome. We have Chase Price, who's running Reapers of Vengeance. We have a sneaky little drum in there. I think he's great. I love that guy. Kind of good to take blood sacrifice on because there's a 4 at Ward. While he's been near his lads.
Yep.
And here's his little 2 dudes that come with him. One of them is just a goon. Like I think it's like a Gore Hulk guy. He does like no damage or anything.
Literally.
But then the other guy with the hammer, that guy, the Skull something Herex. Skull Taker Her I don't know, something Skull. He does big damage. Big damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've kind of talked about Corn.
It's a cool list. It's not I think he's got the double furies in there for tactics though, turn 1 as well, which is you know.
Yep. Yeah.
Haven't seen a lot of them in there, which has been surprising. They're such an easy, cheap ally for what they do for the army. So that's but yeah, Valkyrie is just such a prick.
Yeah.
I don't know, Chase loves her.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoops. Then we have IDK with what am I doing? With Eels in the Iron Rack sub faction. And this all went down a bit. Man, is the Aspect of the Storm really still 300? Jeez, that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still a lot, isn't it, for what he does? But
yeah, it is. Hey. And am I correct? Is you can't neg safe stack now?
Oh no, that's the C one. This one is the.
Oh, that's the C. Sorry.
Yeah. This one's the damagey one, but I believe his +1. I believe his +1 to wound doesn't work for the mounts anymore by memory or something. There's something there.
Right. Interesting.
So.
Horrorghast is cheeky in there.
Yeah. I guess that's for the Tidecaster. You know, I haven't seen a list with Horrorghast in such a long time. I don't know why.
Literally what I was just thinking. Yeah, it just dropped off, Wasn't it 40 points?
Yeah, and then Geminids kind of does the same thing. I guess shorter range though. I don't know. Yeah.
Still good.
Be underused, probably. Yeah. Ben Major is running Soulblight with a pretty...
Oh, here's the wounds.
Yeah, so I like this one. So the skeletons are still like, I know that they're really expensive now because they came out and they were literally, so a 30 block was 90 points cheaper than this. They were 80 for 10. So it's gone up, that's gone up 90 points. So they've gone up 30 points per 10 since the book came out, which is mental. But there's so many tricks you can do with them. Like one guy stubs his toe and then you break coherency and lose half the unit. And then your turn you go, oh, I'm going to do the tactic to bring models back. That they all come back.
Yeah.
Their
recursion's nuts.
Yeah, it's mental. But yeah, they're slow and they don't really do much. So this is more like a bit more mid board spec than the other Soul Blights we've seen so far. Yeah.
Yep.
They can kind of do damage with like Dune minions, and then if you get Hoarfrost off, they maybe can do something. As opposed to nothing, because they get +1 attack from the Vampire Lord as well. So they can do something, but most of the time it's the Grave Guard.
This is also, I think, the first Soul Blight list we haven't seen take Empire of Corpses. I think all of them have so far.
Yeah, so what's Lust for Domination? Is that that's the Gravesite one, is it?
I believe so. I'll need to check it. These names I can't fucking remember.
Yeah. And then we have Matt Baker, who has Knights of the Empty Throne. So pretty similar list to the one from before, except this one doesn't have Bellicor and it has some Bliss Barb Seekers in it. So that's interesting. You could pump those Vanguard up to Ren 4 and then have no ward from the Snake of Darkness Demon Prince. So that could just completely murder something.
Yeah.
Nurgle would not like to play against this for sure. It's just some big damage.
Yeah. Or some anti-bodyguard lean in here hard, eh? That's pretty gnarly.
Yeah. So even something like Skaven, with a bell or something might struggle against this. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we have rookies from the 41st millennium. So I'm assuming these are 40k lads. Is what that means, right?
They are 40k lads, yes.
Okay. So, Liam's here. Okay. Yeah. So, we have Nathan Bleakley, who's running Soul Blight with Legion of Night. This is kind of the most standard Soul Blight list I've seen so far. I think this is really solid. Manfred, Necro, Vampire Lord, 30 Skeleton Block, and then 220 as a Grave Guard. So pretty kind of Hammer Anvil style Warhammer, with some stuff to do good tactics, and its grand strat's quite a bit easier than the others I've seen so far as well, because he's got the Fell Bats and some Direwolves that are easy to kill as well. So solid.
Love it.
Oh, there we go. Here's a Skaven list I can get on board. Oh, this is great. Oh, this is great. This is a great list.
Yeah, Alex is a bit of a you can see him walking around the corner, or you see his brain walking around the corner 3 minutes before he walks around the corner. It's just a massive, swaggering French unit, so it doesn't surprise me he's pulled something from that disgusting book. Look at this.
This is literally the list I wrote day one when the Battle Scroll came out. I've just realised. So he has the same thinking as me. So basically,
dangerous.
It's Warbringer with the 3-up bodyguard command trait, which is great. And then he has a bell and a warp seer, so he has the 3 claw steps, and he has a Gracer and foot as well for Hoarfrost to make the Rat Ogres actually have rend. And then 2 Master Molders, 2 4s of Rat Ogres, 2 20s of Clan Rats, and Bridge. So I think the difference is you get Bridge now. You didn't used to get Bridge with the points changes. So that's a very solid list.
It'll be slapping.
Yep. Okay, the only thing I'll say is that there's no greater depression in Warhammer than failing a 3-up to bring the Rat Ogres back. But it's less depressing. It's actually less depressing if you don't take the command trait to reroll it. I've just found that I can't do that to myself anymore to take that command trait, because it's great to have the reliability, but then when you take the command trait and you built your whole army around that and you don't roll the 3-up, it just makes you want to just leave the game straight away when it doesn't happen. So I can't do that to myself anymore. So I'm on board with taking a different command trait on somebody else.
There's a feral amount of damage in that list, eh? There's a lot of hammer.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's as far as recursion goes, like it's got more than your normal Skaven list, because the Rat Ogres come back, and then if they hit the bell enough, then you can get Vermilord. So It's kind of got more of a
Yeah.
late game threat. Only problem I found with this list is the grand strat is not that great because the master molders on foot, they just die so fast. So basically
Yeah.
they need to kill. I mean, they need to kill basically what, three of the heroes? Yeah, 3 of the
Hmm.
heroes here. So probably 2 master molders and one of the bell warp serial grazier to deny it. Which is, maybe in the armies we're looking at in this tournament, there's probably not. Maybe Khorne is the only one you worry about. But yeah,
Yep.
Seraphon maybe as well. Okay, then Liam Hackett, we have Khorne. Um,
Hmm.
so we have Scarbrand, Wrath of Khorne. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Double.
Unfettered and Wrath of
Double.
Khorne. Here we go.
Here we
There
go.
we go.
This is
That's what we like to see. All right. He's got the same thinking as me. All right. So we got 2 Wrath of Khorns. They can chain to each other, right? Yeah. So
yeah.
I believe.
Oh no,
No, they can't, right?
I think you have to shoot. No, they can't. No, I don't think so.
And they can't. I don't think they can chain to Scarbrand either. So maybe one of them is. I mean, I like the War Scroll. I get it. Yep, and then some bodies. So I mean, it's kind of like a slightly summoning oriented list. It looks like this one with stuff that goes in and does damage. Yep.
Yep.
And then Ben Warriors running Glog's Mega Mob.
The Heal Boys.
The Heal Boys, with a load of kind of like MSU trogs.
Yeah. This is a good list, man. I like this list. It feels really slow, but it puts out a lot of damage, and like allocating trogs are like one of the most torture things, especially MSU trogs, incredibly torture to allocate damage to. I think for like it's just so easy to underkill a unit, and if you spread damage out, you can actually make a few run. That's probably the danger in this list, I think. And it will hate Ionis if it gets into it, but it's a good list. I like this a lot. There's a few minus ones to hit too. Like you got Fellwater, Sneaky Distraction. You've got the Gobblepalooza. You can stack up to like what, -3 to hit. Not that you probably would, but you could at least do -2 to hit very easily. Makes it pretty tanky.
Yeah, that's a spicy team, that one. That's they got some good lists there. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple of powerful teams so far I've seen liking this. Oh, another
Yep.
40k crew. Although
So
this is
we're
not a
up,
40k
we're up to the
crew.
last one here. So we have we thought this was a 40k tournament. With now, so what's interesting about, I saw this list before. So none of this screams 40k to me. Like I was looking at the list, so I was like, where's the KO though? If you're gonna, we thought this was a 40k tournament, surely you have KO. But anyway,
No.
I will say maybe the slight trend that I've seen from the 40k players in the list so far is they tend to be like maybe a little bit more MSU. Is that maybe something that's like informed by the 40k game? Like, because I don't play the game at all. Is it like slightly better
Yeah.
for the MSU and 40k?
Listen, I'm going to be honest. Any opinion I share of 40k is years old at this point. Like I played it very thoroughly before I switched to AOS, but I haven't touched 10th edition. But it used to be very much about finding like trading units that were MSU that you could flick out, trade up, and then just kind of whittle down. But you are right. There is a lot. I'll say this now because I think it's quite relevant. There is at least, I think, nearly 10 40k players that I've seen so far that I would say identify as 40k as their main game, jumping in and playing some teams events for a new system. That's pretty awesome, eh? I think that says, before we go onto this list as well, but I think that says a lot for I'm going to be positive here. I'm not going to say it says a lot about 10th edition, but I think it says a lot for the Queensland community and how healthy it is. Like, often there's quite a rivalry for no real reason between these two systems, but it's awesome to see that like cross pollination and the Queensland meta just like come together and have some fun. So yeah, I think this is super awesome. That's a sign of a healthy ecosystem to me. So that's good to see.
Yeah,
But in
awesome.
this team, Brad is awesome. He is a fantastic player. There's a few strong players here. but he plays AOS. I think only Chris Eddy might play 40k now, but he's definitely an AOS player. And Liz and Eric, I've seen at multiple AOS events, so I don't know what this team.
Okay,
Their
okay,
name doesn't line up what I know.
okay.
They're being cheeky.
All right, so yeah, we have Big War. Kind of comments we said about tactics farming from before. I think this is the other one I've seen that's like used brutes as like the main battle line thing here. And this has a cabbage. So, yeah, look. So, friend of the show, Orkman, he's so funny with the cabbage. His hatred of that piece is just so funny.
Yeah, I back him on it. I back him. I'm not a cabbage fan, but I know you're hot for cabbage, man. You love cabbage.
It's just, if people have read my list over the year, there tends to be a pattern, which is you have one damage monster and then one support monster in every Stuart list over the years. So this is always the damage monster for me. I don't know. I kind of like that he can slap stuff off. I get that when he's in Big War, losing that extra Ren from like the War and Iron Jaws, that is a pretty big deal on this guy, because the Destroyer, I mean, it puts him up to big damage, like 6 damage on his what is it called? Something chopper. But it's Ren 1, right? Yeah. So that's that's the problem. It's so swingy in combat.
He's the mayor of Swingtown, honestly.
Yeah, I think he's a bit probably. I mean, and then in Iron Jaws, right? The hit and the wound aspect of it is less reliable. So, he's a bit of a swingy lad. Yeah. Yeah. That's that list.
Whoa,
and then,
look at this Soulblight.
Yeah, so we have Nagash. Spicy. So it's Nagash and skeletons, basically. So Nagash, Vampire Lord, Direwolves, 220 of skeletons, and 20 Graveguard and Spell Portal.
The only thing I'll say here is, Spell Portal, you dirty, dirty dog. You can hand a dust through that, can't you?
No.
Chris is out to, I don't know, what's the opposite of like the sportsmanship award?
I will say
Chris is out for that, eh?
So it's sort of like I think Nagash is like almost in this like late stage capitalism version now, where it's like, because before it used to be like you'd hand of dust and it would be like a bonus that like it would be like, even if this doesn't go off, like it's gonna make my opponent cry for taking the main piece off. Now it's like, it has to go off for you to win the game. Like it has to in certain matches. Like you have to be able to hand of dust the bell or something, right? So Nagash he's definitely he's weaker than he was at periods of time in Age of Sigmar history. He's better than the previous version of him, which was terrible, but he's still look, I've tried to make him work in Nighthaunt. I wasn't so convinced. The spell lore is much better in Soulblight, so maybe there's more work there. But yeah, I think he's still maybe slightly expensive in my opinion.
It's also his recursion. He add 3 to every unit? I forget the new one. What's that again?
Or
is it just?
Yeah, I think it's 3 to every unit by memory. And then he has
I thought so. That kind of
a pretty similar version to the Soulblight bring back a unit thing. So basically, I think in your turn in this list, you can roll 2 3-ups at the end of your movement phase to bring a unit back. You can't recycle it multiple times, but it's just quite reliable, yeah.
Good for the Graveguard. It does kind of make his Grand Strat ironically a little harder, I think, because he kind of needs stuff to die early enough so that he can start that roll, but then he's bringing stuff back, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, it'd be he's got his own little mini game there.
Yep. So here's a Nighthaunt list that so this was extremely popular when the book came out, and again, it's one of those lists that died for some inexplicable reason. I think the Spirit Host did go up. But basically, the premise is you run 6 heroes and then a shitload of Spirit Hosts. And I'm assuming the other has Banshees, is it? Yeah. Reinforced Banshees, okay. Yeah, just so they don't get one shot. Basically, because you can kind of like decide which Spirit Host unit you allocate to. The idea is you kind of like spread the love around. And then with Olander, you have like the dream turn where they all have one model left, and then you add D6 back to the units and you get them all back.
And then roll 5 ones.
Yeah, that's what happens every time. But That's the idea with this
Yeah,
list.
yeah.
It's
A lot
it's
of
an
heroes, man.
extremely defensive army. So he has -2 damage. So if you're charging with if you're charging in with Gargants, it's not going to go well. Like all your 4 damage shots are going against ethereal stuff. Yeah, and he has quite a few. Let's see. Oh, he's actually less on the defensive debuffs than some of the other lists that I've seen. He's got the -1 to wound for independent of the fell wind. Yeah, but it's an interesting list. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
good skew.
And then another Gloggerino here. With
It's actually identical. I
is
was
it the
looking at it
same?
before.
Is it the same list? It is the same list.
I reckon, yeah, I
Yeah, it is.
reckon that there's been a little bit of hey, I'm playing 40k and I'm playing an AOS tournament. Who knows how to play Trog? Can I borrow your list? That's what this says to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And Brad, being the kind gentleman that he is, probably thinks, "Oh yeah, I'll lend you my list because if I match up into you, I'll still shit on you." So that's Brad's.
Right, right.
He has been playing Trogs for a very long time, so he is. I think he actually he was one of the first people to run MSU Trogs when they first like came out. A lot of people were like reinforcing them and stuff, but he was just fighting the board with them. So yeah, he's got this list down to a
Gotcha.
T, I'd say.
Interesting. All right. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, that brings us to the end of the list. So, yeah,
yeah,
great variety in there. Yeah, whenever I do the TTS list reviews, it's literally like 18 teams with 17 teams with corn. So there was a bit more like there was a bit more variation here, but still definitely like a strong corn presence, and ogre's presence.
yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll shout out the sponsors again. So we'll shout out to Northside Alliance, Wargamers Hub, and Emperor, as well as Gap
Yep.
Games, Bear and Dice. Thank you for your support. Do you have anything to say before we round out the show here?
No, man, just thanks for having me on, and really keen to see how this event flows. We've got a new pairing system, which will be just fun. I think. I think I always like changing up, old establishments. I'm a big fan of it. So hopefully the teams on the weekend have a good time. And there's a few really powerful teams here. I think it's going to be a really hot. The second day, she's going to be spicy. There's a lot of power
Mm.
in the in some of these teams. So keen to see where it lands, but. No, man. If you're interested in the raffle, keep your eyes peeled. We'll be
Yep.
putting some more information about that very shortly out, and yeah, get on board.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we will see you later for now.